For the record, there's like 7 different edits of this movie floating around. I'm going with the final cut that's the definitive version to me. Also, I kind of like unicorns. Hello, Canada, and the world at large. This is Lane from Canada. You know, for several years running, Los Angeles was my go-to vacation spot. I'd grown up splattered in cow poop and viscera, then entered into a career wherein I'm frequently splattered with human poop and viscera. Living several thousand miles due north of LA made it the perfect luxury getaway. I'd drive a couple hours to the nearest airport, catch the morning plane, and be in LAX by 11 a.m. By noon, I'd be in Beverly Hills, sipping white peach champagne on Rodeo Drive, and knowing I was in for a week of some of the finest hotels, dining, weather, activities, and entertainment the Western world had to offer. It was glorious. You couldn't pay me to go to California right now, because the blue-haired people have somehow made LA in 2023 worse than Ridley Scott's post-apocalyptic version of 2019 from 1982. If Harrison Ford still just needed help chasing and gunning down hot, evil robot ladies in perpetual rainfall, I'd be submitting my immigration papers and working my way towards a Blade Runner badge. Congratulations, blue-haired people, you've made Los Angeles worse than a dystopian sci-fi, and we don't even have legitimately hot robots yet. Welcome to Before Movies Sucked, and this is Blade Runner. In 2019, the powerful Tyrell Corporation has developed a line of robots called replicants, which are virtually indistinguishable from humans. They are primarily used off-world as slaves on terraformed planets, serving as everything from laborers to prostitutes and even soldiers. In order to prevent the powerful beings from staging uprisings against humanity, the replicants are only allowed a brief lifespan of 4 years before dying. Despite the precautions, violent replicant uprisings do occur, and as a result, replicants are declared illegal on Earth. Earth's police forces form special units known as Blade Runners who are charged with hunting down and retiring any replicants who illegally return to Earth. Blade Runners are especially trained in the use of Voight-Kampff machines to determine if test subjects are humans or replicants based on verbal and bodily responses to various questions. While questioning a test subject named Leon, a Blade Runner named Holden is shot and severely injured. Suspecting that Leon is one of 6 replicants who escaped from another planet, the police chief Bryant and a street detective named Graff bring in retired Blade Runner Rick Deckard to take over the investigation. Deckard is informed that a hijacked off-world ship was found in the Pacific outside the city, and 2 advanced Nexus 6 model replicants were killed when the group attempted to infiltrate Tyrell HQ, but 4 others are still at large. These include skilled assassin Zora and pleasure model Pris. Leon was the muscle of the group who had been attempting to pose as a Tyrell employee in a second attempt to access the headquarters when he was discovered by Holden. The 3 replicants are under the leadership of soldier model Roy Batty, a highly lethal and intelligent combat veteran whose motivation in leading the escape to Earth is a mystery, as most replicant escapees would avoid the hostile planet altogether. Needing to determine if the Voight-Kampff test will still work on the new Nexus 6 models, Deckard is sent to conduct the test at Tyrell HQ. There he meets with the corporation's CEO, Eldon Tyrell, who requests that Deckard prove himself by first running the Voight-Kampff test on his personal assistant, Rachel. Although it takes much longer than usual, Deckard finally concludes in private that Rachel is also a replicant, albeit one who believes that she is a human. Tyrell believes that imprinting false memories into his creations will prevent their developing emotions from overwhelming them, as they will believe themselves to be human. In the case of Rachel, she was given the childhood memories of Tyrell's niece. At his home, Deckard has a strange memory or waking dream of a unicorn galloping through a forest. Suspicious of the test she was given, Rachel visits Deckard, but emotionally leaves when he drunkenly tells her that she is a replicant, and all of the memories she believed to be her own are actually fake. In a lab where replicant body parts were created, Roy and Leon interrogate a biogenetic engineer named Hannibal Chu. Hey, that's James Hong!
The secret ingredient of my secret ingredient soup.
Chu points them towards another high-ranking genetic designer named Sebastian, whom he claims can get the replicants access to Tyrell himself. Pris is sent to meet Sebastian, posing as a homeless girl to gain his sympathy. Unlike the calculating Tyrell, Sebastian is shown to be a kind man with a genetic disorder that makes him age rapidly. Although he appears middle-aged, he is only 25 years old, and his condition makes him empathize with the replicants, sharing their fear of an abbreviated life. Deckard and Graff investigate the hotel room Leon had been living in, and find clues which leads them to the strip club where Zora was working. While staking out the bar, Deckard drinks too much and drunkenly calls Rachel, inviting her to come to the bar and meet him. She refuses and hangs up on him. Deckard finds and confronts Zora in the guise of a workers' rights advocate, but she realizes his intent and almost kills him before they are interrupted. Deckard pursues her and coldly guns her down in the street. After reporting the kill to Bryant, Deckard is informed that Rachel has gone missing and must be retired as well. However, he is immediately ambushed by Leon and is only saved when Rachel arrives and kills the powerful replicant with Deckard's gun. Deckard allows Rachel to hide out in his apartment, where she tries to come to terms with what she is. She asks if Deckard has ever taken the Voight-Kampff test himself, but he doesn't answer. Feeling himself drawn to Rachel, Deckard later kisses her in a scene that's made less icky by the common fan theory that Deckard himself is a replicant. After realizing that Pris is a Nexus 6 with very little time left to live, Sebastian agrees to take Roy to meet Tyrell. Roy finally confronts his creator and makes the simple demand of more life. But Tyrell explains that any attempt to recode Roy's existing genetics would only cause his death to come even sooner. Overwhelmed with hopelessness, Roy kills Tyrell and it is implied that he kills Sebastian as well. When Deckard investigates Sebastian's apartment, he's attacked by Pris but manages to shoot and kill her. Roy also returns to the apartment just as his body begins to shut down, and despairs when he finds Pris's body. Roy attacks and taunts Deckard, but curiously keeps allowing him time to escape after only disarming and wounding him. Deckard tries to flee across the rooftops, but fails to make a jump across an alleyway, and is left dangling from a beam in the rain, his injured fingers barely able to hang on. Roy makes the jump easily, but only watches as Deckard continues to slip away.
Quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it? That's what it is to be a slave.
Oh yeah, and then this happens.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
Graf arrives to take Deckard home, but comments it's a shame that Rachel also won't live. Deckard finds Rachel safe in his apartment and plans to escape the city with her. However, as they leave the building, Deckard finds an origami unicorn, similar to the small figures he had seen Graf making throughout the film, implying that Graf had tracked Rachel to the apartment but made the decision to let her live. It could also be implied that Graf knows about Deckard's strange memory of the unicorn, which he could only have known if Deckard's memories were also artificially imprinted. It is honestly hard to state which of Ridley Scott's two greatest sci-fi movies have had a greater impact on the legacy of cinema, Alien or Blade Runner. Alien set the bar for the slow burn horror film, while Blade Runner influenced more of the futuristic urban cyberpunk. Either way, the fingerprints of both movies are clearly seen in the finished products of dozens of other major films over the past 40 years. Rick Deckard is my favorite Harrison Ford role, and he is a great embodiment of the classic detective noir, a hard-drinking, muted loner who's clearly tormented by his own brutal actions. When asked by Rachel if he's ever retired a human by mistake, he denies it, but I'm not sure if he really believes it. A major theme in the original novel is the diminishing amount of things that bring humanity any sense of fulfillment, which in that version basically comes down to ownership of the most valuable non-synthetic animals, or spiritual euphoria. Without going into any specific details, the movie hints towards this same skin-deep gratification simply through the hollowness seen in Deckard's life. Sean Young gives an equal performance as Rachel, with a similarly muted sense of emotion that is almost the mirror image of Deckard, and it's immediately obvious why they would be attracted to each other. Modern characters in bad movies or a modern Star Trek show would rant or weep about their conflict for minutes on end. In 1982, we learned everything we need to know about Rachel's pain and loss of purpose through the simple act of her sitting at a piano, looking at herself in the mirror and letting her hair down, perhaps wondering if she is doing so for the first time. They don't make character moments like this anymore. While Rachel's journey in the film is fascinating enough on its own, the pressing question of whether or not Deckard is a replicant isn't one that I'm going to be able to answer when even Harrison Ford and Ridley Scott can't agree on it 41 years later. I tend to lean towards Scott's view that Deckard is a replicant, but I'll admit that's partially because Deckard sleeps with Rachel and I have a harder time cheering for a hero who has sex with iPhones. However, I do have to acknowledge that if Deckard is a replicant, he's basically the worst one ever since he gets his butox handed to him in a box every time he goes toe-to-toe with one of the fugitives. Perhaps this could be attributed to him being a less sophisticated model, as the Nexus 6 are clearly the most advanced variety, and even Sebastian has never seen one. Either way, the ambiguity of the film is very intentional, and that's part of what makes it so memorable. In the end, whether or not Deckard is human is almost irrelevant. The question being asked is what is required to have a real human life. From an emotional standpoint, Deckard and Rachel are extremely similar, and both of them come with a full back catalog of human memories and experiences. They seem repressed, muted, lonely, and isolated, and it can't just be a matter of being surrounded by mindless consumerism or feeling incomplete from a lack of love. Finding each other, along with the shock of Deckard being rescued by Roy, gives them a new hope for their life, and maybe that's all they needed. Even if they don't have hope, getting back to a place where hope seems to be on the horizon is a good start. Conversely, Roy is well aware that he's a synthetic copy, but he has a far greater appreciation of every moment, feeling, and impulse that his brief lifetime allots to him. When he says, "I've seen things you people wouldn't believe," it feels genuine heartbreak for Deckard and all other humans who live apathetic lives, lacking substance, drive, and appreciation. Roy probably smelled a lot more gunpowder, blood, and death in his life than roses, but he cherished every moment of survival, even as he felt guilt for what it cost him, and for the lives that were cost to others. And holy crap, does Rutger Hauer knock this one out of the park. The man had an acting career spanning 50 years, and I doubt there are many people who would argue that Roy Batty was not the pinnacle of it. Out of all the characters in the film, Roy is the one that shows the widest range of emotions, particularly after learning that Pris and Leon are dead. His passionate responses suggest there is some truth to Terrell's assertion that the replicants' short lives make it necessary for fake memories to act as a buffer to their burgeoning emotions. With the odd exception of Zora, the fugitive replicants all exhibit some amount of childlike behavior in their reactions, being prone to outbursts of temper, confusion, grief, fear, and passion. However, in his final moments, Roy makes the decision to embrace one virtue that has always been foreign to him, and that is grace. By offering a saving hand to a fallen enemy, Roy finally accomplishes what it means to be alive, and it's no coincidence that he does so with a dove in one hand and a nail piercing through the other. It's also not a coincidence that the first thing Deckard asks when he reunites with Rachel is, "Do you love me? Do you trust me?" After having his life saved by Roy and seeing the replicant's peace in the face of death, Deckard is determined not to carry on for one more day without the basics of a life worth living, regardless of whether he was born or manufactured. A robot died so a man could live, and Deckard and Rachel are going to make the most of their second chance they were given, no matter how uncertain their future might be. What an epic movie. The writing is great, the characters are fantastic, the cityscape special effects that still hold up perfectly today are legendary. Vangelis rivals his own Chariots of Fire theme with the score, and I'm even going to say it, Blade Runner 2049, the sequel in 2017, was really, really good. Even as a hologram, Ana de Armas is hotter than... Anybody. I'm not wasting time thinking up a clever analogy. Ana de Armas is the hottest woman alive. Blade Runner is one of the greatest movies ever made. Let's see what the blue-haired people think about it. BLM Antifa and various other blue-haired people didn't manage to make Los Angeles look like this until after George Floyd died a year later in 2020. The perpetual reminder that an old white male film director was more progressive than they are is unacceptable.
I went to Indiana Jones and Jaws and every movie that Steven Spielberg's ever made, and by the way, he's never made a movie with a female lead. Sorry, Steven. I don't mean to call your ass out, but it's true.
No.
You look down and you see a tortoise, Leon. It's crawling towards you.
Tortoise? What's that?
You know what a turtle is?
Of course.
Same thing.
Great white male kills two unarmed females who are on a quest to be freed from the slavery they were born into, And I'm still fine with calling him the hero.
We are cloaking! Our shields are down! Fire.
There was a time in science fiction and fantasy when emotionally conflicted characters could express their inner torment without having a temper tantrum that was screenwritten by a 13-year-old TikToker.
Oh, I had a girl and she was good, but one of her legs was made of wood. Stop! There was crying!
The delineating line differentiating consent from a man and woman fighting an obvious attraction to one another is a line that no blue-haired person is capable of seeing, which makes this scene the 1982 version of their bullshit "Baby It's Cold Outside" controversy.
Recently, we've woken up to the song's more date-rapey undertones.
Stop it. Get some help.
It becomes clear that the male character was always intended to be a predator.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Stalker and victim.
Baby, it's cold outside? Really? That's what we're mad at today?
He's denying her the agency to make her own decision to leave. What's in this drink? Could the seasonal scumbag date rape alarm be going off any louder right now?
Okay, your parents' divorce was your fault.
Anyway, should Christ tarry, I'll see you in the next video. Jesus loves you. Vote Lane for King of Canada. Even if technology one day reaches Ana de Armas levels of hotness, I'd still recommend looking for, a human. And let's make movies great again.